You keep doing everything right, and still nothing changes. You say the affirmations. You try to stay positive. You visualize the life you want, and yet, your reality looks exactly the same. Same stress, same money problems, same doubts creeping in at night when no one is watching. And the worst part? A small voice inside you has started whispering, maybe this just doesn't work for me. Stay till the end, because what I'm about to share will completely change how you see this. Because right now, you're not confused because you're doing nothing. You're confused because you're doing so much, and it's not giving you results. You wake up and repeat affirmations like a routine. I am successful. I am wealthy. I attract abundance. But deep down, something feels off. You say the words, but you don't feel them. You repeat them, but your reality argues back. You look at your bank account, and it says otherwise. You look at your life, and it doesn't match the sentence you just spoke. So now you're stuck between two worlds. The world you're trying to believe in, and the one you're actually living in. And that gap is exhausting. It makes you question yourself. It makes you wonder if you're doing it wrong, or if something is missing. Let's be honest for a second. Have you ever sat there, repeating an affirmation, while your mind quietly says, this isn't true? Have you ever tried to feel confident, but your chest feels tight, like you're forcing it? Have you ever told yourself, everything is working out, while inside you feel like everything is falling apart? That inner conflict is where most people lose, because they think success comes from saying the right words. But what if I told you that the people who succeed don't actually rely on repetition the way you think they do? By the end of this video, you're going to understand something so simple, but so powerful, that it will shift the way you approach everything. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. This idea isn't new. It was taught years ago by Florence Scovel Shinn. But most people completely misunderstood it. She didn't just talk about affirmations. She talked about alignment, about speaking words that match your inner state, not fighting against it. And that's where the real difference begins. And if you've been trying, struggling, searching for that one thing that actually works, then this might be the moment everything clicks. If you feel like this message is already speaking to you, then you already know you're in the right place. Now listen carefully. There is one habit, just one, that separates people who succeed from those who stay stuck. And it's not discipline. It's not motivation. It's not even consistency in the way you've been taught. It's something deeper. But before we go there, you need to see what's really happening inside you. Because right now, you're not failing because you're lazy. You're failing because you're divided. Part of you wants change. Another part of you doesn't believe it's possible. And every time you repeat something you don't fully believe, you create resistance. Think about it like this. Your mind is like a mirror. Whatever you truly believe, it reflects back into your life. But if you stand in front of that mirror and try to convince it you're something you don't feel, it doesn't change. It just shows you the truth you're carrying. So when you say, I am confident, but inside you feel insecure, the mirror doesn't respond to the words. It responds to the feeling. And that's why nothing changes. Because the habit that separates successful people is not repeating words. It's aligning their inner state before they speak. Let me interrupt your thinking for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, are you trying to convince yourself or express something you already feel? Are you repeating affirmations or resisting your current reality? And here's the hardest question. Do you actually believe what you're saying? Or are you just hoping it becomes true? Pause on that. Because most people don't. And that's the hidden mistake. The mistake is thinking that repetition creates belief. But it doesn't. Repetition without emotional alignment creates frustration. It creates doubt. It makes you feel like you're doing everything right and still losing. And over time, that's dangerous. Because now, it's not just about affirmations not working. Now it's about you losing trust in yourself. So let's break this down clearly. Why do affirmations fail? Because they are being used as a tool to escape reality. Instead of transform it, you're trying to jump from doubt to certainty in one sentence, and your mind doesn't accept that. It resists it because it knows the gap is too big. So every time you say something you don't believe, your mind pushes back. That's why you feel tension. That's why it feels forced. That's why it doesn't stick. And this is where everything changes, because successful people don't force belief. They build it slowly, intentionally, honestly. They don't start with, "I am a millionaire," when they feel broke. They start with something real, something believable, something that bridges the gap instead of ignoring it. That's the first shift. Stop lying to yourself and start meeting yourself where you are. If you feel uncertain, say something that feels slightly stronger, not completely opposite. Instead of "I am extremely confident," try "I am learning to trust myself more every day." Feel the difference? One creates resistance, the other creates movement. The second shift, focus on feeling, not just words, because words without emotion are empty, and emotion without words is powerful. So when you say something, slow down. Ask yourself, do I feel even 10% of this? If not, adjust it. Make it real. Make it honest. Because the goal is not to sound powerful. The goal is to become powerful. The third shift, consistency is not about repeating the same sentence. It's about returning to alignment, again and again. Some days you'll feel strong, some days you won't. That's normal. But instead of forcing the same affirmation, adjust your approach based on your state. That's real consistency. Now let me show you what this looks like in real life. There was someone just like you. They had watched every video, tried every technique, repeated affirmations for months. At first, they were excited. They believed change was coming. But slowly, frustration started building. Nothing was happening. They were doing everything right, but seeing no results. Then came the breaking point. One night, sitting alone, repeating the same words, "I am successful. I am successful." And suddenly, they stopped because it felt fake. It felt empty. And for the first time, instead of pushing through, they admitted the truth. "I don't believe this." That moment changed everything, because instead of forcing belief, they got honest. They asked themselves, what do I actually feel right now? The answer was simple. I feel lost. I feel behind. I feel like I'm trying, but it's not working. And instead of running from that, they used it. The next day, they didn't repeat big affirmations. They said something different. "I don't have everything figured out yet, but I'm willing to learn." It felt small, but it felt real. And something shifted. For the first time, there was no resistance, no inner conflict, just a quiet sense of movement. Day by day, they built from there. "I'm improving. I'm getting clearer. I'm starting to see opportunities." Nothing dramatic at first, but something deeper was happening. They were aligning, and slowly, their actions changed. They started showing up differently, making better decisions, taking small steps they used to avoid. And then, reality started responding. Opportunities appeared. Confidence grew. Not because they forced it, but because they became it. That's the difference. And here's another perspective. Imagine two people. Both want success. One repeats powerful affirmations, but feels doubt inside. The other speaks simple truths, but builds belief gradually. Who do you think wins? The one who is aligned. Always. Because success doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you are. This is what Florence Scovel Shinn meant when she talked about the power of word and belief. Words are not magic by themselves. They are vehicles. They carry the energy you put into them. And if that energy is conflicted, the result will be too. So the real habit, the one that separates people, is not repeating affirmations. It's this: being honest with yourself and aligning your inner state before trying to change your outer world. That's it. Simple, but not easy, because it requires awareness. It requires you to stop pretending and start observing, to notice what you actually feel, not what you think you should feel, and then gently shift it, step by step. This is where transformation becomes real, because now you're not fighting yourself anymore. You're working with yourself. So what should you do starting today? Stop rushing to the biggest affirmation. Pause. Check your state. Ask yourself, what feels true right now, but slightly better than this moment? Start there. Speak from there. Feel into it. And build. That's how belief is created, not in one sentence, but in consistent alignment. And once that alignment builds, your reality has no choice but to follow. Because now, there is no contradiction, no resistance, just direction. And that is powerful. But here's something most people don't realize. Once you master this, you stop needing motivation. You stop chasing techniques because you understand the mechanism. You understand how to shift yourself from the inside. And when that happens, everything changes. Not instantly, but inevitably. And in the next video, we're going to go even deeper into this. We're going to talk about the exact moment when your belief becomes strong enough that reality starts catching up faster than you expect, because there is a point where everything accelerates, and once you reach it, you don't go back.